Queen Zero is back, and we're starting out back where we left off with Weiss seeing his mother in a hospital bed, and she's calling him over. So, as you can imagine, Weiss is too smart to be tricked by this, and he immediately says, "This is a hologram," and he smashes into the wall. Killer appears behind him and says, I thought that would work longer on you, but I guess not. But it did shake you up, didn't it? That's the weakness of humans. And Weiss is like, what? Having a heart? Loving people? Emotions? I don't really consider that a weakness. And he says that I guess you're not as competent as the shining stars. He seems to do lack some emotion, Killer, because he doesn't even respond to that insult. Instead, he just immediately puts up a shield as Weiss tries to shoot him, and he has a completely straight face. But the protection program doesn't really mean anything to Weiss, because even though his gun can't pierce through it, he just places his hand on the wall, and he basically modifies the wiring throughout the building, and he just causes it to explode right next to Killer, who basically takes it full force. But even with him being able to modify his world, Killer is still a smug bastard because he still believes he's in control, still showing basically no emotion other than just smiling at Weiss. And so he decides to just change the dimension that they're in, creating basically a box that basically puts them in a box without any technology and says, "Now I've stopped you from being able to use your ability." Weiss is like, "I have more than one way of fighting." And he activates Arsenal, and he goes into his full suit and starts to fire at Killer. And apparently Arsenal's guns are apparently stronger than a normal gun, which makes sense. I mean, it is literally a tech suit designed by Weiss's ether gear. And so it starts ripping through Killer's protection program, his shield. And that's when Killer actually shows a little bit of emotion, which is like anger. And he creates a bunch of fucking drones everywhere with machine guns, and he starts blasting Weiss with them. But none of them actually hit because Weiss designed Arsenal to be the fastest member of the crew. Well, that is until Lucy mastered her ether gear, and then he became the second fastest member of the crew. So he's able to dodge all the attacks from the drones, and in an instant he's on top of Killer, and he hits him, and he's about to basically disassemble him because he is an android. Killer. This is the first time Killer shows any actual emotion other than just like smugness or a little bit of anger or irritation, and that is actual fear, because he realizes he's about to be disassembled. But he is so fucking fast that in an instant, he creates a program that is able to prevent Weiss from disassembling him with his ether gear, which is insane, the fact that you can create a program that counteracts an ether gear. I wonder if you could do that with other ether gears, like can you turn off Shiki's gravity? Because if you could do that, that's kind of bullshit power to have. Or can he only counter Weiss because they both have a technology-based ether gear? So it's technology versus technology. Because if that's it, then that makes more sense. It's more of a conditional scenario where it's two tech heads fighting each other. But if he could just turn off anyone's ether gear, that would be complete bullshit. That would be way too overpowered. I'm going to assume it's conditional because he was meant to be Herman's counterpart. After failing to disassemble Killer then counterattacks by disassembling Arsenal. He just completely just turns off his ability, just completely takes him apart, which makes sense. I mean, if he can turn off his ability to disassemble himself, then of course he can turn off his ability to disassemble other machines, including the Arsenal suit, which is literally just a wristwatch that turns into it's basically Power Rangers suit. That's basically what it is. So it makes sense. Killer then just creates a sword out of his wrist, which is kind of basic. I didn't expect someone like him to do that, especially since he's been like a long range fighter this whole time. And he basically just starts to just slash away at Weiss, just cutting him apart. He seems to be cutting like all the outer points of his body, his arms, his legs, his sides. It seems that he's more interested in torturing Weiss than he is actually, defeating him. Which makes sense. I mean, he straight up said that before to Shiki. He likes to make people suffer before they die. So, Weiss then just activates his ether gear, obviously, because he has that. And he's able to basically throw off Killer. Weiss then does an attack called Metallica Explosion, which is just straight up a rocket punch. Like, it is literally just, he makes a giant fist propelled by rockets and punches him straight in the chest. But even so, it still actually acts like a bunch of explosions where Killer's body is just being rocked with explosions, which means there's more to it than just being a rocket punch. It probably releases small bombs as well as you're being punched, which must fucking hurt. Like, you get punched by a rocket punch, and then you get just have a bunch of mini explosions just blasting you all over your body. So Weiss is about to do the finishing blow when basically a capsule comes falling from the sky. And of course, it's his mother again. She's in a medical tube filled with liquid. And Killer's basically like, "Oh, your mother's alive," and he's like, and Weiss is like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna fall for this again. Nice try." And then Killer explains, "This is no trick. This is really your mother. You see, what happened is that your mother, she died from a mysterious disease, but we now know that wasn't mysterious. It was actually Draken's life absorption machine." And as she died, the doctors had no idea what happened to her. Now, instead of burying her, they decided to do experiments on her, where they eventually found a way to bring her back from the dead. Weiss is like, "That's bullshit," which I actually agree with 100%. That is bullshit. Like, that, there's never been established the ability to bring the dead back to life. That is ridiculous. The show has been quite blatant about the fact that when someone dies, they are dead. But as Weiss calls his bluff, Killer, of course, then calls that bluff. And basically says, "Okay, well, I guess you don't mind if I just destroy her." And of course, Weiss says, "No, please don't." So Weiss is now unsure what to do. He can't really fight back now. And so I suppose the last fight we had was Rebecca's fight, and it ended with her losing and then us just moving on to Weiss's fight. So we're probably going to end up just moving on from here again, and we're going to then go to Homaru's fight. And we're probably not going to get back to this until Homaru apparently loses. And then we'll go back to Rebecca, where she'll finally come back and have a win. And then we'll get back to Weiss, and then we'll probably get back to Homaru. This seems to be the pattern that's happening. Either that, or she is going to bust out of his restraints, and he's basically going to punch his way through all of the walls, the interdimensional walls. Which I believe Shiki can do that, absolutely. With his gravity ability, I bet he could actually just bend reality. Okay, that's the video. Please subscribe, give a thumbs up, so you can enjoy more Eden Zero and other anime things. Thank you, and have a great day.